Hello and welcome to the show. My first guest is Nancy Grette. She is the founder of Alatheia Therapeutic Writing Center. She's here to share about their growth over the past 10 years, as well as what's ahead, including a new facility, and how you can help in our community to support their organization. Later in the show, we'll talk with Laura Turner. She is a volunteer at Alatheia, and she has recently launched a GoFundMe campaign directly benefiting the organization. Thank you so much for being here, Nancy Grette. You're one of my favorite people in this community, always doing good for others. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to come on your show.
It's been a long time since you've been on the show, and it's been a long time since I've even seen you in person. So just to see you in this little box is better than nothing. So again, thanks for being here. A lot of people are familiar with Alatheia Therapeutic Writing Center in our community, but why don't you give an overview to the audience who may not be as familiar or needs a reminder of how you started it, why you started it, and how long you've been running your organization?
Yeah, well, Alatheia started in 2011, almost on accident. We are in the business of changing lives with the healing power of horses, and we provide equine assisted services to people, children and adults with physical and developmental disabilities, but also most recently, we've been providing services to veterans. And back in 2010, I was asked to give a ride to a little girl for her 5th birthday. We had horses. We had enjoyed horses for many, many years. And it wasn't unusual for someone to come and enjoy the horses with us. But this particular little girl had a disability, and she used a walker to get around. And we didn't think anything of it until my husband and I put her on the horse. And then something really magical happened when we saw her up on top of the horse, now eye level or above, and an empowerment that we saw happening just was the beginning of Alatheia Writing Center.
When you had this experience, so it's one thing to take a neighbor child on a ride and see them enjoy it in a way you hadn't seen before. How do you get from that to maybe not necessarily where you are today because you've grown so much, but it's deciding that this is going to be a program, I formed a nonprofit organization at the same time that you did, and there's a lot of hoops to get through, and there's a lot of technicalities and legalities. So how do you get from that ride to deciding, okay, how do we go about serving other people in similar situations?
Right. So we just wanted more. We wanted to serve more people. We wanted to provide more opportunities. And so the first thing that I needed to do was learn what I needed to do to become certified and credentialed to do this kind of work. So it started a series of research and investigations and visits to other centers. And it was through that process that we decided that we would need to provide or apply to be a nonprofit. And so we did that. And then slowly over time, as that nonprofit status was awarded to us, then we began talking to school districts and special ed directors and talking about the services that we could provide. And then the calls started coming and the program began growing.
And so in the beginning, from that one child ride, say within the first year or two, how many riders did you have? And did you have goal setting in terms of how many riders you'd have, how many people you'd serve? Did you just so authentically that you?
Yeah, it was at that time, no, all we wanted to do was help some people. And so once the word got out, I think we opened our doors in June of 2011 with just 12 riders, and we had about 25 volunteers. And capacity was limited by how much time I was able to provide, how much volunteer time we had, and the number of horses we had. So as demand grew, then we needed to increase the number of volunteers, increase the number of horses that we had, and increase the number of staff that were available to provide services.
When you first started, first started bringing in volunteers, one of the things that I've heard about, witnessed myself. The volunteers, their heart for Alatheia is so huge. Their heart for the people that you serve is so huge. What is is there a certain quality you look for in volunteers? We'll get more into depth about what you're looking for on, you know, on a daily basis to help run your organization. But what are some common personality traits or characteristics of the volunteers that show up to help you every single day?
Yeah, I would say that everyone who comes here has a heart to serve and the ability to serve. It only takes maybe about an hour a week. So it doesn't need to be someone who has a tremendous amount of time, but a heart for service. Someone who, even if they don't have experience with horses, we provide that, we provide the training. And so just a love for the animals, I think, would be something that they share in common. A love for being outside, because of course we're working in an outdoor environment. When you're in a barn, you have to be okay with getting your hands dirty a little bit. But mostly it's just that heart for service and a love for people.
When we come back, let's take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk more about the needs of Alatheia on a daily basis, the volunteers, the donations. People don't realize how much a little bit goes a long way in your daily operation. And then we'll also talk about the growth, the new location that you've been working on for quite a bit that's getting closer and closer. We're talking with Nancy Grette from Alatheia Therapeutic Riding Center, and we'll be back in just a moment. We are back and talking with Nancy Grette from Alatheia Riding Center, Therapeutic Riding Center. And one of the things that I attend your gala annually and other fundraising events you have throughout the year. The Little Black Dress is one of the most popular in our community for ladies only. And you have a way of communicating your needs through volunteering, but also through donations. Some people think if they can't feed a horse for a whole year or they can't help you buy a horse, that they're not contributing. But tell us some of the incremental ways that people can contribute to your daily operation.
So even a $25 gift, $25 once a month would just about pay for the scholarship needs for one rider for one lesson. And so you can provide for $25, you can provide that one lesson a week for a rider. Let's see, $100, a donation of $100 would be able to provide up to 3 lessons. And that would be through financial aid.
Mm-hmm. And then what about the example of just hay or feed and those kinds of things? Those also, I mean, a little bit, it goes a long way, I guess, is my point. And
Sure.
You have so many community members who gift that automatically every month or show up to your event and make sure they gift as well and
Mm-hmm.
support your organization. When you talk about volunteer needs, you need, do volunteers work directly with the riders and the horses, or do some volunteers, like we're going to talk to Laura Turner next. I know one of her things that she's doing is showing up at 5:30 in the morning to get the horses going. And I don't know how she does it, but she loves it. And it's a beautiful thing for you, I'm sure. So give some examples of the volunteers you're looking for.
Yeah, so to be a volunteer, you need to be 13 years old. That's the minimum age that we are able to take. Occasionally we'll take younger volunteers, but they're just working, maybe scooping manure in the paddocks or helping around the barn with some chores. But to work directly with our clients, they need to be 13. And most of our volunteers do work directly with the clients, either leading the horse during the lesson or providing side support alongside the rider, either physical support or cognitive support. Other people, like you mentioned, Laura loves to come and work with the horses. She scoops the paddocks, she feeds hay, she cleans water troughs, she fills water troughs, she provides salt and minerals to the horses. There's just a myriad of things that we need help with that on a daily basis that people who are maybe not interested in working a lesson, but want to get into working with the horses and helping with chores around the barn.
And when you say things about leading the horses, cognitive support, these are all things that you train. So someone
Yes,
says, what does that mean? I have no idea how to do that. Obviously, you provide extensive training, and everyone is safe and accounted for.
Yes.
And that's how your operation
Yes. And even that support alongside the horse during the lesson, it may even look like playing catch with a rider. You might have a ball and you're playing catch, or you're helping them with a dart game or a squirt gun. There's all kinds of things that are used in the lessons that volunteers can help with.
Let's also talk about something that's been in the works for a bit now, a good bit, a good while, which is your next location. So give us a little background to that and what you're working toward, and any estimated time for when that might actually happen.
Well, currently Alatheia is located on my husband and my personal property. It's just a 4-acre parcel in a residential area, and we are bursting at the seams with 100 riders a week. And so we have known for a long time, our strategic plan has been to move to a different location so that we can increase capacity and serve more people and grow more programs. So in 2019, Alatheia was able to purchase a 12-acre piece of land over off of Easy Street in Lower Monitor. And we have been working very hard. COVID threw quite a monkey wrench into our plans, and they were delayed for some time. But we intend to clear the land in 2022. It currently is a pear orchard, so we're going to be clearing the land and beginning site preparation and excavation to begin the building project. We hope that by the end of 2024, we will have a new facility built that will provide services to 200 riders a week and expand our season. Right now, we're limited to, based on our current location, because of parking and access during the winter, we're only able to be open between March and November. But the new facility with improved parking and improved access will allow us to probably provide services for maybe 11 months out of the year.
Wow, that'll be a big difference.
Huge.
Not to mention, Nancy, you bring whole new meaning to working from home. I don't even know if you can imagine what it'd be like to not have your work be at home. Do you look forward to that at all? Or do you think it'll be an adjustment in terms of having to get up and be there as opposed to walk outside your door?
It's definitely, it's going to be an adjustment. There's nothing like being able to look out my window and see all 12 therapy horses and know that they're resting comfortably or they're munching on hay, anything like that. So I know it's going to be a very big adjustment, but also you might consider the fact that there's 200 or 300 people a week coming through our personal property. And as much as we love that, it is time to take that back. Yeah. And also for perpetuity of the program itself, you know, I'm not always going to be able to be the one that's making things happen, and to move it on to another location is going to give this community an opportunity to take ownership and ensure that it continues to thrive.
For years and years and decades.
Years and years. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm so happy for all the growth and all the things that are happening for you and the way that this community always steps up and supports. I know that it was tough for a lot of nonprofits during the beginning, especially of COVID, and trying to figure out how are you going to still do the fundraising? How are you still going to have that support? But you've most definitely done more than just managed and muddled through. And it's because of the generosity of our community, for sure. So
yes, the community has been amazing.
Yeah. Well, next we're going to talk with Laura Turner. I wanted to have her on as well because she has started a fundraiser specifically for Alatheia. We'll let her get into the details of why and how and in whose honor she's doing this. But is there anything you wanted to say about what Laura's endeavor involves, or anything you want to say for, to, or about her as we go in?
Well, I think more generally, what I would want to say is that one of the biggest surprises of this work is the impact it has on volunteers. Mm-hmm. And Laura is going to be a great example of how her life has been changed for the better through volunteering here. And so I'm excited for people to hear about the impact on her life and where she hopes to take that.
Yes. Well, thank you for your time today, and hopefully I'll see you in person soon.
That'd be
It
nice.
should be once the snow melts, right?
Yeah.
That should be about the time, at least by then. But you take care of yourself, and you're welcome here anytime.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right. See you soon.
Bye.
We're here now talking with Laura Turner. We were recording this a separate day from when we talked with Nancy. And Laura is outside at Alatheia Therapeutic Writing Center. And full disclosure, when we get to chatting, her lips might not match her audio. And that's because we've had so much snow up here in Washington State in our little town that the Wi-Fi isn't working that well. Her audio will sound good. It just might not match her lips. So if you can get past that, this is a story worth telling despite the weather complications we're having. So thanks for being here, Laura. Thanks for being out in the cold to talk with us.
Thank you.
Let's talk about your story, how you started making a connection with Alatheia. And it started with a concussion that you suffered a couple of years ago. Let's start with that.
So about 2 years ago, right before COVID happened, I got into a snowboarding accident, and it wasn't until about 2 weeks later that I realized that I had a concussion when I went on a trip. And so I came back, and I was suffering from everything from memory loss to vision issues to brain fog to stuttering. I couldn't work, and I was pretty hopeless, especially with everything shut down. I had to spend 7 weeks without sunlight, so no natural sunlight. And that's, the whole winter kind of had me thinking about going to Alatheia to finally meet Nancy.
So there's isolation involved automatically because you can't be out in natural sunlight, and nobody was out at the beginning of COVID, really, not as much. So isolation plus the symptoms that went along with your concussion. Had you met Nancy before?
I had met Nancy a few years before when I used to nanny for a family who their daughter comes out here to ride. And ever since I had come out here the first time, I was donating privately through Costco to support Alatheia in whatever way I could. But I had never taken up the offer of coming out here to, on my own, seeing the horses and brushing the horses and just seeing the facility.
So your concussion is what prompted you to decide to do that?
Yeah.
And how long after your concussion did you seek out Alatheia in that way?
It wasn't until this last June, actually, that I finally made my way out to Alatheia, and it's almost like I never left after that.
Well, I know you personally outside of our interview today, and you're big-hearted and also highly committed to whatever it is you're committing to. And so what started out when you first sought out Alatheia and you started going, what did you do? What were your first encounters?
Well, really, I just wanted to come out, and the doctor had recommended coming out here to brush the horses and be with the horses 10 minutes a day. And so really that was my goal, is just 10 minutes a day. But then I started doing a lot of the things out on the grounds and being with the horses more. And it wasn't for like 2 or 3 months that Nancy finally invited me to be a part of one of the lessons. And then it just kind of spiraled from there.
So in the lessons, then you were then volunteering to help with the lessons of the writers who were there, what she was describing earlier in the show.
Yeah. So the therapy of Alatheia, I was getting much more than just brushing the horse. I was getting it through volunteering, through any of the yard work that needed to be done, but then also when I got to ride as well.
And you're a morning person.
Mm-hmm.
I am not as much. And you and I sometimes are texting early in the morning. You'll text me earlier in the morning and I'll reply to you when I wake up. But you go out to Alatheia several days a week and start your day with the horses, and tell us what you do.
Well, in the summertime, I would be getting out here at like 6:30 before the sun was even over the hill. And my goal was to have that time with the horses.
The horses behind you. Show them. Make a noise. Just so you know where that sound's coming from. I'm sorry to interrupt you. So you'd come out in the morning.
And just to spend the quiet time with the horses. And I really wanted to have that time with them. But then, you know, a few months beforehand, when I wasn't able to see all the sunrises, I was really being blessed with so many sunrises because, you know, looking over Sunny Slope, every one of them was so different. And it was so powerful being able to see that, especially with my eyes still having some issues from the concussion. And so I was really excited that I was able to go out and do the morning feed before anybody else was out here, and I could talk to the horses and just have that time with them and it not be interrupted.
And that's also been therapeutic for you.
Yeah, very therapeutic.
Let's get to your fundraiser. You started a GoFundMe campaign that is, the goal is to raise $20,000, and that $20,000 would be split between helping purchase a horse, which is approximately $10,000, and then setting up a scholarship fund that with the other $10,000 that supports the writers. Nancy was talking about that earlier in the show and what it costs to sponsor a writer. And so $10,000 would be a lot of rides for people who need it. And that's your goal, is the $20,000. And what gave you that idea? Let's talk about your dad for a moment and his giving heart. You lost your father. How long ago now?
It has been 7 years since the 2nd of January.
And what about his legacy has made you want to do this for Alatheia?
Well, the big thing is that I think that if he was around and he knew of Alatheia, he would have been supporting it, not just through his special ed students that he was teaching at the time, but I think that he would have been wanting to come out to be a part of, I would say, this movement that's happening out here within the community that not very many people know about.
Yeah, I would think that Alatheia, it is one of the organizations I think a lot of people know about, but until you're actually there and witness it and see what's happening, it's pretty hard to grasp the miracles that are happening there every day.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, and so you're wanting to support that. So I'll create a link for people to go to your GoFundMe page to support this fundraiser. And your goal again is to raise $20,000. 10,000 of it will go toward purchasing a horse, and 10,000 of it will go toward raising a scholarship funds for writers to participate. Is there anything else you want to say? We just have about 30 seconds, but I'm sure you'd want to say something, let people know your final thoughts about Alatheia.
At the end of the day, it's what's next for Alatheia. They need the horses for the next generation of riders. And this is an opportunity to, you know, support a horse for years, not just one ride or 6 months worth. So it's years of rides, years of lessons. So, well,
I'm so proud of you, and I'm happy to share your story and share your effort. And I hope you raise every dime of the money you're seeking.
Thank you.
Take good care.
Thank you.
See ya.
Buddy.